Good morning everyone. Today we're going to talk about the Quezon City bus service and whether there should be more public transport operated by the government instead of the private sector. This has been operating for over a year already. There are a lot of people who said this will fail, this will be cancelled after a few months. It is still operating. They have 8 routes serviced by 91 buses and they're actually moving over 480,000 commuters every month. Now, of course, this is not the first time that the government have operated a bus service. I'm sure some of my older viewers will remember the Love Bus. They even had double-deckers plying EDSA. And there have been a lot of people saying, what happened? Why can't you bring them back? The buses are very efficient. They move a lot of people. Before we look at how the bus service is today, let's talk about where it began. As a free shuttle service for health workers and frontliners. This is where it all began at the start of the pandemic. These are Quezon City owned buses and they operated these for those workers who could not get to the hospitals. They could not get to the clinics. Why? Public transport was suspended or it was operating with huge limitations because of social distancing. So this is where it all began. After seeing how successful that was, they launched the new bus service. This is the city administrator. He talked about how they based this program on what other countries are doing. So they didn't just go in blindly. They researched this. They based it on existing systems. This is Sir Dexter from DPOS. He's now in charge of the bus service. Next we have attorney Zona. She is the regional director for LTFRB. And of course we have Mayor Joy Belmonte. Now let's talk more about LTFRB, because if you look at the buses, you will see Genesis, you will see 5-Star, you will see all of these different franchise buses, because the buses are not owned by the city. Okay, sorry, that's my food that's just finished cooking. As I was saying, these buses are not owned by the city. They've had to contract franchised operators. My feeling is that if they had it their way, they would have their own buses, they would have their own salaried government employed bus drivers and conductors. But they have to work within the limits and, well, what can I say? They have to work within the limits. Thankfully, LTFRB have been somewhat flexible and they've been able to launch this. They have over 91 buses right now contracted to the city. And since they contracted those buses, they still have their original branding. They did add stickers on the front, on the top, on the side, but it looks a little bit ugly. For example, look at this Genesis bus. They just kind of slapped the sticker on the side. It was okay when they first launched because they were trying to serve an immediate need. But later, if you look at the buses now, they're all branded under Quezon City. It looks much better. It looks more professional. And when people see these buses from a distance, they know immediately, okay, that's a Q City bus. So I really like what they did with the color scheme. I think it looks very professional and a lot better than when they launched. Now, there are pros and cons to contracting these private bus operators. Obviously, the big benefit is the city are not responsible for maintenance. And let's be honest, when it comes to government agencies and maintenance, sometimes they're lacking. So the responsibility is really on the operator. If they don't maintain the bus, they can be kicked out because there are many operators to choose between. This conductor, this driver, they are salaried. And that is a good thing because a lot of problems on the road, a lot of the accidents, a lot of the illegal parking, illegal terminals, it all revolves around the old system where drivers are fighting for passengers. They do not want to drive unless they have enough passengers. They do not want to let another bus get in front of them because it's going to steal their passengers. So by having salaried drivers, salaried conductors, they are on their best behavior. Now you might be saying, well, they might get lazy. No, that's not possible because all around the city, you'll see dispatch stations like this. These are manned by Quezon City DPOS and they make sure the buses are running on time. They make sure they're well maintained. They make sure that they're looking after their passengers. If you're wondering about the timetable, they operate every 15 minutes during rush hours. And then outside of that, they operate every 30 minutes. And unlike other buses which just load and unload everywhere along the road, every 20 feet they're stopping, loading, unloading, these buses use specific stops. You cannot get on, you cannot get off unless you go to a specific stop. They're all numbered, they're all color coded. For example, here along the road, you'll see a sign which says Quezon City Bus 1. That is Quezon City Hall to Cubao, vice versa. Like I said, they have 8 different routes. Here's an example where they're unloading passengers. One thing I could say is that really the bus drivers should make more of an effort to get towards the sidewalk because it's safer. If a motorcycle comes along here, it's possible that they could hit someone who's unloading. Because at the end of the day, this is still Metro Manila. There is not a lot of space. They don't have space to make laybys. So they're working with what they have, but at the same time, the drivers should be responsible. So a little bit of improvement, but it's an organized system. They're really getting off at the designated stops. They're not going to stop every 50 feet, every 100 feet, and that really adds to traffic when they do that. Now, aside from the set stops, they actually have express trip buses. These buses will go point to point. They will not stop along the way. So if you're planning to ride this and you don't know how it works, if you see the sign in the window that says express trip, that means it will only go from its start point to its end point. It will not make any stops along the way. I interviewed many people who are using the buses every day, and all of the feedback was positive. We can listen to this gentleman. Sorry, the audio is not great.
Very comfortable and can save your money.
So what he said is it's very comfortable and you can save your money. And that's what pretty much every commuter said. Because it's aircon, you're guaranteed a seat because they do not allow overloading, and it is free to ride. That is one of the debatable topics. Is some people say it shouldn't be free, some people say it should be free. One of the things you have to consider is how much money Metro Manila is losing every day because of traffic. If you can convince more people to ride the bus, you will help the economy by reducing traffic, because the buses can hold somewhere around 59 passengers. Compare that to private cars. They say, or at least before the pandemic, the majority of private cars on EDSA carry one person. So you can imagine it would be similar for other roads. If you can provide a reliable, safe and comfortable public transport, people will use it and you will reduce the number of vehicles on the road. So there are pros and cons to whether it should be free, whether it should be paid. What I really like about this service is that Quezon City have put a lot of resources into it. They didn't just hire a bunch of buses and then let them run free. They have a lot of manpower on the ground monitoring the buses, assisting passengers, making sure they're dispatched at the right time, making sure they're really doing what they're meant to do. Because if you do not watch over these buses, they will go wild. I hope that one day the city can buy their own buses and then hire the drivers and the conductors as salaried employees, government employees. That will give them even more control over the service. But honestly, it seems to be working very well. And it raises the question, should there be more public transport operated by the government? Because honestly, there are some operators who will try and hardball the government. If they do not get what they want, they will ensure there are service disruptions. They will make sure commuters cannot get to where they need to go. And then there will be so much pressure on the government from commuters that they will be forced to give the operator whatever they want. If the service is operated by the government, if the drivers and conductors are salaried by the government, it would make things a lot easier to control. And it would solve a lot of issues that bus drivers complain about. Because, for example, look at the service contracting scheme under LTFRB. There were a lot of drivers who said the operator is not paying us. You are paying them, they are not paying us. So cut out the middleman. Let the government operate the service as long as it's operated properly. Like I said, a lot of people said, Quezon City, you will fail. You cannot do this. They're doing it for more than a year now. Is it perfect? I can't really tell you, because if you speak to the commuters and ask them, is it reliable? They say yes. Is it comfortable? They say yes. But it's free. Would they say the same thing if they had to pay? I can't tell you that. But for me, it looks pretty darn good, and it looks like a step in the right direction. More focus on really moving people, helping commuters. There is too much focus on private vehicles. Why? The buses are moving so many people. Let's put more priority on the buses. Anyway, that's just a quick video. I don't want to make it into a rant, but personally I'm very happy to see this, and I hope that we see more along these lines. So thank you for watching.